This was Family Guy before Disney, and at its absolute peak. Then Disney took over in 2019, and the numbers didn't just drop, they crashed. And it's safe to say that the fans were furious. But it feels like a pattern. Everything Disney touched, it ruined. And so for Family Guy, what fans were lucky to have is absolutely gone. But how did Disney manage to destroy one of the biggest cartoon series in our generation?
It seems we're in a universe where everything is drawn by Disney.
From the very beginning, Family Guy's identity was in stomping on every line you weren't supposed to cross. If there was a boundary, Family Guy wasn't just stepping over it, it was launching a rocket from the other side. Violence, it did it raw and colorfully. Gore, sometimes you forget it was a cartoon you were seeing because right out of nowhere, Stewie was either slicing someone right in half, or Lois was ripping off her husband's head with anger. It was cartoonish, but occasionally graphic. And when we talk about offensive humor, that was Family Guy's trademark. Everyone and everything was fair game. The church, the government, celebrities, the disabled, the mentally ill, even God himself.
So basically, you can eat from any tree you want except this one.
Can we sit underneath it?
You know, I would just not go near it at all.
No one was safe, not even Walt Disney, who got dragged through the mud more than once. And when it came to social commentary, Family Guy was a flamethrower in a room full of gasoline. From political figures to racial stereotypes, it even did so while stabbing fingers at Disney.
Doesn't seem to be a thing wrong with this place.
Hello, everybody!
You didn't watch Family Guy to feel comfortable, you watched it because it punched up, down, sideways, and sometimes right in the viewer's face. Yes, it was problematic, that was its whole deal. It forced conversations and outrage in a way that only a show with nothing to lose could. That's what made it a troublemaker, shaking up the usual media norms that nobody else was brave enough to.
Iraq had nothing to do with this. It was a bunch of Saudi Arabians, Lebanese, and Egyptians financed by a Saudi Arabian guy living in Afghanistan and sheltered by Pakistanis.
So you're saying we need to invade Iran?
Okay, add this to the list of Family Guy jokes that did not age well. So, in essence, it stood for everything Disney was against. It was a show for adults who were okay with being offended and loved it. Disney, that was your family-friendly guy. All that beautiful, sharp chaos, it doesn't thrive well in the clean, smiling Disney-branded vacuum. And as we'll soon see, that's exactly where Family Guy ended up. And when the Disney takeover happened, it was only a matter of time before Family Guy was going to lose everything that made it Family Guy. But how did that takeover happen? 2019. The year when Disney officially acquired 21st Century Fox for a mind-melting $71.3 billion. That's billion with a B. And while most people were busy freaking out about how many X-Men movies Disney would reboot, or how quickly they'd slap Iron Man onto cereal boxes, something more quietly disturbing happened. Disney got Family Guy. Now, technically, Family Guy still airs on the Fox network, but don't let that fool you. Fox, the TV channel, wasn't included in the Disney deal, but the studio that makes Family Guy was. Translation? While the logo at the start of the show still says Fox, the paychecks, approval chains, and corporate marching orders now come straight from the kingdom of Mickey. And here's the thing, Disney doesn't just own shows, it consumes them, repackages them, and files off every sharp edge until it's safe enough to slap on a lunchbox. And Family Guy, that show is all edges, that was the entire point. Disney's history with edgy franchises isn't exactly promising. Just ask The Simpsons, another Fox alum that's been reduced to a bland, algorithm-friendly shadow of its former self. Or Star Wars, which went from a mythic space opera to corporate-safe content made to fuel theme park lines.
What?
Yup.
What?
Yup, it is.
No way.
It is.
What started with hope in The Force Awakens quickly spiraled into chaos with The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, each one eroding the brand's identity and making longtime fans no longer recognize their favorite franchise. That sentiment is exactly what Marvel fans also share since the Disney takeover. So is Star Wars, arguably the most beloved IP of all time, could be reduced to corporate sludge under Disney's control, what chance did Family Guy have? That's not just a warning, that's a case study. It's a classic case of creative suffocation under the velvet glove of a smiling mouse. The moment Family Guy became part of Disney's portfolio, you could practically hear Stewie sigh, well, blast it all, or more accurately,
Deuce?
What the deuce?
Yeah, it's like, oh.
And no, Disney didn't barge in with scissors and censor bars, they're smarter than that. What they practice is soft control. Jokes aren't yanked out violently, they're nudged out quietly. Scripts are gradually reshaped, and before you even notice, the punch is gone. The satire is softer, the characters stuck in a loop. What we witnessed wasn't just a merger, it was an exorcism. Disney didn't just buy Family Guy, they sanitized it. But here's the kicker. Disney knew what they were getting into. Or worse, they thought they could tame it. This is the same show that once animated Walt Disney sexually harassing Minnie Mouse in a studio office. But that was not all the shots it took at Disney. It still went further to portray Mickey Mouse as a cigarette-smoking mob boss who car-bombed Fievel from An American Tail so casually.
Oh! You killed him?
That was not me. Someone else got to him first.
Tough break, Jew Mouse! Ha-ha!
And let's not forget Goofy, casually depicted as one of the most masterminds behind 9/11 during a surreal meeting with the devil in hell.
Says here you're involved in the plotting of September 11th?
Well, that's what they get for supporting Israel. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Gosh.
Okay, into the eternal pit of fire you go.
That wasn't just edgy or provocative, that was Family Guy in its purest, most unapologetic form. Much of the shock value drew from long-standing and largely debunked rumors of Walt Disney's alleged anti-Semitism. Family Guy leaned into it for laughs. There is even a cutaway of Peter and Lois visiting Auschwitz, and Peter mistakenly thinks it was one of Disney's theme parks.
Why should I trust you? You're always tricking me into going places I don't wanna. Oh, you said we were going to a place Walt Disney built.
No, Peter, I said supported. By the way, don't go on the train ride.
Now, do these jokes cross lines? Yes, that was the point. Family Guy made its name by dragging sacred cows into the mud, including Disney itself. And now that sacred cow owns the show. Did Disney think they could tame their new show? Maybe. Or maybe they hoped Family Guy would mature, lose its rough edges, and fit in with the rest of their clean, family-friendly brand. But whatever the plan was, one thing became obvious. The show that followed wasn't the Family Guy fans knew and loved. The wild, unapologetic chaos that made it special started to disappear, and with it, the very thing that made Family Guy stand out. Family Guy lasted as long as it did because it found a rare balance. It wasn't preachy like The Simpsons, but it also didn't go full chaos like South Park. The offensive jokes, racist, sexist, or otherwise, didn't work just because they were shocking, they were part of stories that still had emotion focused on messy but real relationships. We cared when Brian died, we felt something when Meg connected with Peter, only to realize she'd outgrown her need for a toxic father figure. But when Disney's acquisition hit Quahog in 2019, it seemed like no one, neither the Family Guy team nor Disney, knew how this new relationship would work.
We have to provide something called commentary. The commentary here is that Mickey Mouse hates Jews. Now, let's see what else this...
Seasons 19 and 20, though greenlit under Fox, had Disney looming in the background, and it showed. The writing felt cautious, like the team was tiptoeing around a minefield of corporate oversight. This was the start of Disney's quiet but systematic cleansing. The dark jokes were the first to go. The sharp, twisted humor that once dared to tackle the Holocaust, terrorism, school shootings, and religion without caring was suddenly dialed back or dropped entirely. Even the absurd cutaway gags that were once the secret weapon of the show, due to their shock value, you never knew what was coming.
Hey, where's the monkey rabbi? Here's your Torah. You'll be here on Tuesday at 9. Check in with Shirley.
You gonna need me this week?
Maybe Friday. Now, where are the gays?
Over here.
No, the really cartoony gays.
Yahoo!
There you are. We're gonna need you guys all week.
It became safer, more cartoonish, and less controversial. Instead of punching through taboos, Family Guy started punching down the middle. It went from edgy satire to lukewarm commentary. Every line now feels like it passed through a committee of risk analysts before making it to air. The show's once fearless approach to race, politics, religion, and media is now neutered by the looming shadow of corporate fear. Disney didn't break Family Guy overnight, they just made it behave, and in doing so, they stripped away what made it matter in the first place. If the softening of Family Guy's humor was bearable, the real heartbreak came when the characters themselves began to suffer, altered almost beyond recognition. Traits that once defined them were toned down, erased, or reshaped to fit a newer, safer mold. And nowhere is this more obvious than with Glenn Quagmire. One of the show's resident hypersexual weirdo, Quagmire was designed to be offensive. He was the guy who made viewers gasp and laugh in equal measure. His catchphrase giggity was basically a warning label, but ever since Disney took over, Quagmire hasn't been the same. He's been declawed, castrated even. It's like someone in a boardroom decided his whole existence wasn't politically correct enough for modern audiences. Now, he's just a bizarre, cat-obsessed man with the same voice, but none of the bite. The character who once embodied shock humor now feels like a diluted version of himself. Even Family Guy seems aware of it.
Guys, we have to do something.
Yeah, we gotta help him get his mojo back. Come on, Quag.
Disney fans' argument is that society has evolved, and a character like Quagmire, a shameless womanizer, can only exist now as a villain or a cautionary tale. But this is Family Guy we're talking about. If they're not offending someone, they're not doing their job. That's the brand, that's the point. What makes this all the more baffling is the selective sanitization at play. Quagmire, the one character who, despite his outrageous flaws, brought a weird kind of charisma and chaotic energy to the show, gets neutered into irrelevance. And yet, Herbert the pervert is still here. Same breathy voice, same creepy whistling, same tired shtick. Herbert's entire existence hinges on one unsettling joke. He's an old man who lusts after Chris Griffin and other kids. That's it, that's the bit. There's no character development, no evolution, not even a surprising twist. He shows up, makes a few uncomfortable advances, and disappears again. If Disney was serious about cleaning house and bringing Family Guy into a more family-friendly era, why leave Herbert in? He adds nothing to the show, no emotional arc, no clever satire, not even reliable comic relief. Meanwhile, Quagmire, for all his flaws, was a fully formed character. He had depth, episodes that explored his trauma, his strained friendship with Peter, and his complicated family history. He could be offensive, yes, but he was also dynamic, capable of carrying full storylines, and that's who Disney chose to muzzle? It was a terrible decision. They kept the one-note gag that nobody asked for, but stripped away the characters who added color, tension, and complexity. And another character to have painfully suffered this is Stewie.
Well, who knows what... Oh, Disney World! Disney World! Disney World! I want to go to Disney World! Disney World! Disney World! I'm still mad.
Stewie was a genius intellect bent on dominating the world and taking out his mother, Lois. That arc arguably reached its peak in the infamous simulation episode where Stewie and Lois finally battled it out. And maybe, yes, that joke had run its course, but the problem is, once that layer was removed, Stewie never really recovered. He became emotionally clingy, his storylines reduced to mopey tantrums, and Brian not spending enough time with him. What was once a brilliant parody of the evil genius trope, complete with master plans, doomsday devices, and time-traveling escapades, was reduced to a preschooler being dramatic about not being liked by the new smug kid in town.
You're all confident you can snap?
You mean this?
Yeah, that's like bloody witchcraft to me. Anyway, deep down, I've always wanted your approval.
That was agonizing to watch. He's not witty anymore, he's whiny. The sarcasm, watered down. The sharp, cynical commentary that once made him the star of every episode, replaced with soft dialogue about feelings and friendship. And sure, characters evolve, but Stewie didn't evolve, he regressed. What once made him a standout in the animated TV landscape has been traded in for a safe, sanitized humor designed to make him more palatable to broader audiences, for kid-friendly settings. But that's not our Stewie, and losing that chaotic brilliance, Family Guy didn't just lose a funny character, it lost part of its identity. It lost the character who could carry an episode with nothing but a diabolical smirk and a well-placed insult.
Miserable. 3-hour delay and a completely full flight. Don't look at us, you pig. Take your juicy sweatpants and your dirty pillow from home and your bucket of Coke and get the hell out of my sight.
Then there's Peter Griffin. He used to be a lovable idiot with moments of surprising wisdom. Early on, his dumb choices were balanced by a childlike charm, and you could tell he truly cared about his family, even if he caused chaos. Now, he's just mean, dumb, cruel, and incapable of any sincere emotion. He went from Homer Simpson's chaotic cousin to a caricature so exaggerated, it's hard to laugh with him anymore. And while they ruined and rewrote so many characters, somehow they left Meg's abuse untouched. The long-running gag of Meg being the family punching bag, verbally, emotionally, sometimes physically, hasn't shifted an inch. If Disney truly wanted to clean up Family Guy, you'd think they'd address the show's most controversial ongoing mistreatment, but nope, Meg still suffers endlessly for cheap laughs, often without any comedic payoff. If they cared about redeeming characters or shifting tone with purpose, Meg would have been the first place to start. Instead, she remains frozen in cruelty while everything else gets neutered.
That's right, folks. It's going to be a Meg episode. Stick around for the fun. Here's the clicker. No one would blame you.
But with all of this happening, what makes it all the more vexing is that Family Guy is aware that this is happening, but does being self-aware solve anything? In the past, Family Guy used meta humor to sharpen its edge, calling out its own tropes, flaws, and even its network in a way that felt bold and self-critical. Now, it uses the same meta humor as a crutch, a shield to deflect criticism rather than engage with it. The show constantly throws out lines like, "Yeah, we know we're not as good as we used to be," or "Nobody watches the show anymore." It's not edgy, it's lazy writing disguised as irony. Rather than fixing fixing the problem, the writers point at it, shrug, and hope the audience laughs at their honesty. So what we're left with is Family Guy as a parody of itself that winks at its own decay, hoping we'll mistake awareness for relevance. And speaking of relevance, it's gone. Family Guy used to dominate conversations. Episodes dealing with hot-button issues, abortion, religion, 9/11, race, and domestic abuse weren't just shocking, they were fearless. They pushed cultural boundaries in a way that made people pay attention. Now, every joke feels like it passed through 3 boardrooms and a PR department before reaching the screen. The satire, controversy, and defining edge have all been surgically removed. Where Family Guy once went out of its way to spark conversation, even outrage, it now barely makes a dent in pop culture. No headlines, no buzz, just background noise. The show doesn't take risks anymore because risk doesn't align with Disney's brand. Instead of challenging norms or offending sensibilities, it tiptoes. It's safe, harmless, predictable. Family Guy didn't just lose its bite, it lost its courage. And in doing so, it lost what little was left of its cultural relevance. What once felt like an unpredictable comedy grenade now feels like a tired sitcom on life support, chuckling at its own decline and hoping we'll laugh too.
You're gonna throw out that first pitch, Dad, and I'm gonna teach you.
Ha 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 ha! Much laughter and exaggerated scenarios ahead.
This joke was written by AI while the writers were on strike.
Family Guy's downfall isn't unique, it's part of a familiar pattern. The same slow decay that hit Star Wars, The Simpsons, and The Muppets once they fell into the paws of the mouse. Disney doesn't buy shows to preserve them, it buys them to monetize them. And if that means sanding down the edges, muting the voice fans fell in love with, and twisting the tone into something brand safe and merch ready, so be it. Once a show is under Disney, it's no longer a story, it's a product line. And Family Guy, for all its chaos and controversy, became another casualty of that system. It got stripped of its identity for the sake of wider appeal and safer profits. But perhaps all this can be tied back to when Seth MacFarlane abandoned the show. Check out this next video on why he abandoned Family Guy even before the Disney takeover.